Hey everybody, and welcome to another Jamovi tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to continue our series on the pamlj package power analysis. I'm looking forward to it. In today's video, we are going to do one of 3 t-tests, and I'm going to do a video per t-test, just so people, when they find these videos, that they're like, okay, I just need an independent samples t-test. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Before we get started, I am using version 2.7.5. 2.7 dropped in the middle of 2025, and you can add the pamlj module by going up to modules, click on that, go to Jamovi library, and go to available. And for some reason, it's near the top. This list is in an alphabetical order, but you can search for pamlj. It was released and created by Marcelo Gallucci. Thank you, Marcelo, for this lovely module. So let's jump into t-test, shall we? So we click on power. Now, pamlj is just one power package, power analysis package that you can add to your base Jamovi functionality. And so these would all be under this power analysis module button. But here they all are, and we're going to click on t-test. I'm not going to click on it because I already have it open. So in this episode, like I said, we are going to be focusing on this tab here, independent samples. And I really love this redesign of the interface for similar things, having just tabs in the analysis options. So good. Okay. So again, we're only going to focus on independent samples, and we'll do a paired and one sample videos, just so people know. In this episode, I'm only going to get information for doing a power analysis for independent samples. Okay, so most of the time, you are going to be doing a power analysis a priori, or beforehand, right? So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. We are going to be calculating N. But if you click on info here for what Marcelo has put in, it tells you what each of the options here on are calculate. We can calculate N, we can calculate post hoc power, and we can calculate effect size if we wanted to. There are, of course, a dime a dozen effect size calculators, and not only in Jamovi, you can get it as part of your analysis, right? If you were doing a t-test, you can get Cohen's D. It's all good. You can find Cohen's D calculators lots of places. But you are also welcome to select the pamlj web manual, and it's going to open up the independent samples t-test. Unfortunately, the independent samples t-test has not been created yet. So there is nothing here, but hopefully there will be. My video serves as a tutorial for how to use this module for independent samples T anyways. All right, so let's jump into what we see by default. We are given the effect information. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be changing that. As you can see, N is grayed out, and we cannot manipulate this box because that's what we're looking for. That's what we want this output to show us. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that. So we get 2 tables by default. We get the power analysis, which the operative value in this table is this N column here. So base, we need 172. I'll talk about what this base looks like in just a second. But then we get the power by effect size, and it tells us for what we are looking, what effect size we are inputting, what we would normally see, and the description of this, which is important, right? This tells us like how good our detection is, right? And it might be able to tell us some things we can fix methodologically, change our groups up, have bigger groups, etc., right? And so we can explore that in a little bit more detail in just a second when we start messing with our inputs here. Then there is a sensitivity analysis. You can get power contours or power curves from the information that you input into here. And then you can also do power parameters plot, and I'll show those at the end of this video. So let's take a look here. So by default, they put in a Cohen's D or delta, which is the effect size Greek symbol, lowercase delta, which is the symbol for D, which is our statistic, right? And so that's why you see delta in here in this font. I think it's Arial. That's the font here. And so again, maybe some tooltip on conventions. So Cohen identified his D, which is the difference or distance value, and it is expressed in standard deviation terms. Okay, so 0.5 is half a standard deviation. And so he said 0.3 is small, 0.5 is medium, and 0.8, or sorry, he said 0.2 is small, 0.5 is medium, and 0.8 is large. Anything bigger than 0.8, because you can have the range of Cohen's D is negative infinity to positive infinity, although most effects are seen under 1. But if you have a D of over 0.8, then it's, of course, a very, very, very large effect. You can also use weak, moderate, and strong terms if you'd like. So by default, he put Marcelo put in 0.5 here, which would represent a medium Cohen's D, medium effect size for 2 groups, 2 independent samples. So 2 groups, men and women, do some DV, right? Get measured on some DV. The quiet group and the loud group, the experimental group or the control group, right? We have 2 groups that are measured on the same DV, but they are independent of each other, hence the independent samples moniker here, right? So that's the value that they put in here. I'm not going to change that just for now, as we move through some of these parameters. Relative size of group. Now you can see by default a 1 has been put in. This is incredibly important. The relative size of groups represents a ratio of group sizes. So if we want equal groups, then we would put in 1. And 1 is by default, and I think that's good. We just want them to be split down the middle. And as you can see, we've got an even number. I don't think this will give you an odd number, because it will always round up to the next nearest. I think it will round up to the next, as opposed to round down, round up to the nearest even number, which is obviously every other number in the world in the universe, right? So it will just, so even if the actual calculations said 171, it will round up to 172. So you can evenly split those groups. I'm curious, relative size of groups, if we're like increasing these by a factor of 2, like if we're doubling that, but it only increased it by 20. So I'm not entirely sure what's happening there. Okay. If anybody knows, again, the web manual isn't set up for independent samples t-tests. So in G-Power, you are using the ratio of effect sizes, and 1 is the one you want to use because that will have even group numbers. So I would just leave that as 1 if you were watching this video. Now, the additional parameters include what power we want, and by default they put 0.9, and what error rate for type 1 we want, which is your criterion or alpha, 0.05. We're going to leave that as 0.05 in all cases, but if you're doing a power analysis set of practice problems and you want to see what the relationship is between alpha and power or alpha and sample size, then you will end up changing that to 0.01 or 0.1, although you won't likely be doing that if you are using this as a means to get an a priori sample size for your study. You're not playing around with alpha. You know it's going to be 0.05, and you know that's what you're going to do. And then tails, you can do 1 or 2 tails. I would always recommend doing a 2-tail test, leaving that on by default, unless you are doing a directional hypothesis. And even in that case, having more people is always going to be better because a 2-tail test is going to require more people. But if, let's say, I decide changing nothing else but 2-tailed to 1-tailed, take a look at this column here. As I change it to 1-tailed, you can see I need fewer people, right? 32 fewer people, which is important when we're doing, when we have restrictions. But only do a 1-tailed test, if you are doing a directional hypothesis. If you want to be more conservative and you want to get more people, then definitely keep it as 2-tailed. It's always the better way to go. And even up until recently, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I am, but SPSS never even allowed you to do a 1-tailed t-test. You always had just to multiply the t-value by 2 or something like that, and then divide the p-value in half. I don't remember what it was, but it was really difficult, and it was really annoying if you were doing a directional hypothesis, because they were like, no, everyone should do a 2-tailed test. I agree. Everyone should do a 2-tailed test. To get your explanatory test, power parameters are computed for a t-test with an effect size of delta equals 0.5, which is what we've put up here, and a power equal to 0.09 in type 1 to 0.05. The t-test compares the means of 2 groups of cases. The required sample size is n of 172. So that's the explanatory text that you would get for t-tests. Interestingly, you don't have explanatory text for the correlation. I'm not sure why. And you can see here that a small effect for Cohen's d, 0.9 power, requires 1,054 people. Holy moly. What if we don't have the ability to get 1,000 people, but the effect size is small and we are going to estimate a small effect size? Well, that's a good question. Well, then we come up here and we change this value to a little bit smaller. And let's choose 0.8, which is a more conventional value. It may not be the most trendy value these days. 0.9, 0.95 tend to be. G-Power, for example, always defaults to 0.95. I always have my students put in 0.8. So let's take a look at the end column when we change. We click off this or we hit enter or whatever. And you can see here that we need 788. And a question comes up, well, what do we do with that value? So I'm going to use Raycast to help me out here. It's going to pop up here. And what I'm going to do is 788 divided by 2. Because the one thing that this module does not do is tell me how many people per group, although it is very clearly a value of total as opposed to per group. I think that's clear. Maybe if that's just me and being familiar with these values for, a sample size of 0.2, an effect size of 0.2 and a power of 0.8, I was expecting 788 to pop up. There is no information anywhere that might suggest otherwise, except maybe for the explanatory text. The required sample size is 788. Maybe that could be like the total sample size. I don't know, Marcelo, if you're watching. So 788 divided by 2, that's how many people you need per group in an independent samples t-test, okay? So that is what we would, that is how we would calculate. And, they give you the DF that you would need to drop in your analysis, as if the analysis wouldn't have the degrees of freedom. I think that's kind of funny. In any case, that would be how to handle, and if we change this to a large effect, watch this, right? At 0.8 power, 0.8 Cohen's d, which is a large effect, as I said, or a strong effect, and a power of 0.8, 80%, drops down. We only need 52 people or 26 people per group. I think that's great, right? It's and it gives you the breakdown, right? These inequalities, right? Between an effect size, a Cohen's d of 0, because we're doing the absolute value. I know Cohen's d can be negative depending on what term is in the numerator. What term comes first in the numerator? Is it the larger number or the smaller number? We're doing absolute value here, so there are no negatives that are going to be represented, right? So between 0 and 0.55, our power is likely going to be under 50%, right? If we were to do a power calculation, I'm not going to do that. And this is all about doing a priori power analysis. Between 0.55 and 0.792, we have 50 to 80%. And you can see that this value here, 0.792, represents the 80 percentile mark. That's the value at 0.8. But of course, this is the minimum desired power. So if 0.80 does not include our delta value of 0.8, then it's going to be in, it's not going to be that number there. So 0.792 represents the 80% power mark. Well, where's 0.8? Well, it's in this group right here, right? 0.8 exists in this inequality up to 1.02. Right, and that's up to 95th percentile, or the 95th percentile, and then a delta above 1.02 is going to have power greater than 95%. So that's how you read that table. And then so we can show what this looks like, what our sensitivity is on our power. We're doing this, I mean, with an effect size of 0.8, it's going to be pretty low. So a power contour graph or plot with a large yellow section, which represents, basically 0.95 up to 1, is this area right here. You want this to be as big as possible, right? We are at 0.8 right here, and that's where this line fills in that gradient color, which is like a greenish color, right? And so we come over here and we're like, okay, we want a 0.8 effect size. I really wish it would put it on the y-axis, but we want a 0.8 effect size. We draw a horizontal line. Where does it hit the curve? We go down, and that's where 52 is. And this is exactly how, with math, of course, right? Because this is a curve that's being plotted. With math, that's how the, or with calculus, that's how the n is figured out, right? We do a little boop. We have this curve. We draw the horizontal line from the y-axis, and then we find the x value. It's lovely. You can also get a power a curve by effect size, turns it into this like cubic or log function, and same thing with graphing n down at the bottom. Same thing as this one, but instead of effect size on the y-axis, it is power on the y-axis, and there you go. 0.8 crosses this curve. We go down, and that again is 52. Same thing on this one. If we go from 0.8 and we look at this, we go hit the line, and then there's 0.8. 0.8, 0.8, 0.8, 0.8, 0.8. Meet 0.8, exactly. And you can see how power and effect size are correlated positively. Same thing with n. The more people you have, the more power you have, the easier it is to detect tiny, tiny effects. Now, to round out this video, we have the power parameters plot. We can put, just random things on it just to show you what it looks like. So here's what an power by n looks like. And these are all the individual pieces. And it's going to do, and we can change this if we want to. And we can plot by different effect sizes. Number of curves we can change to, and we can find what a curve would look like if we were looking for a small effect versus a medium effect. And it doesn't show, but here's where it looks like, right? So you can see the power, so sample size on the y-axis, right? So if we're looking at power down here, we can see that for medium effect sizes, 0.5, we don't need that many people, only up until the end does it kick up. But you can see here that minimum for an effect size of 0.2, a small effect according to Cohen, right? We need at least 400. We need close to 400, and then it skyrockets as we grow power. So these power parameter plots really show the relationship between these parameters, right? Effect size, sample size, power, and, well, I know not in this graph, but alpha, and you can change that. So that's what it would, and this is specifically for a t-test. Remember, this is total sample size. You would need to divide this value by 2 to have 2 equal groups of participants. And that's how to do an independent samples t-test a priori power analysis in the pamlj, that's what I'm calling it, the pamlj additional add-on module / package in Jamovi. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or any other feedback, drop those down below. I will see you in the next video.